My family was coaches, so that helped in the process. My aunt was a high school basketball coach at Cambridge Ridge and Latin, volleyball coach as well. My uncle coached me growing up. My dad played in college. My uncle played in college. So coming from a basketball family, definitely moved the process along of understanding the game from an early age. I watched a lot of basketball with my grandfather as a kid and my uncle and my dad. I think coaching came from learning and knowing the game from 5 years old and being around it, exposed to it a lot. I mean, I played a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball as a kid.
Yeah.
But coming from a basketball family, my grandfather's 6'5", my uncles were 6'3". My aunt was a real good player. So just coming from a basketball family, that's the language we talked. I was born right in the heart of the Celtics. Being from Boston, I was born right in the heart of the Celtics championship era. So,
right. You were born in the 80s. Yeah.
So I got raised by my dad talking about basketball all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you were born in the 80s, like born like in the 80s in Boston, like around what the Celtics were in their
Right.
like their biggest. I mean, how could you not love basketball?
Right.
Right.
My uncle on my mother's side of the family and I, he asked me to coach with him when I was in about 8th, 9th grade to run a skills clinic for 3rd and 4th graders. So that would be my first time instructing other players how to improve their game. My first time coaching a team, I was in college. I was about 21 years old, and I coached an 8th grade basketball team for a school called Swampscott Middle School. And I was the assistant varsity coach with a friend that's from the same town as me. Talking about that 8th grade year, so my first year coaching, we went 0-22. But there was one basketball game where we were losing to teams from Lynn, which is really a powerhouse for basketball in my area growing up. And we would lose most games by 40. We played a team called Gloucester. It was my first year coaching. It was towards the end of the season. We were in about February. There was about 3 games left, and we were down by like 10. We tie up the game. We go up by 2 actually, and there was just like a resiliency with the players that, we had not won a game before the entire year. Instead of folding it in, basically they showed up. They bought into what we were trying to do, and we ended up losing in overtime. But that was the highlight to start my career for sure. Getting to travel the country a lot has been incredible. Getting to coach in the South, getting to coach in different areas. Working with a guy named Will Wade, who's the VCU, the head men's basketball coach there, and the relationship I have with him, that was really my first experience with, being part of a program that really cares about basketball. Not giving my all when I feel like I should give my all. You always got to show up for your players. Not every excuse I make to not show up makes me lose sleep at night. So basically, like, if there's some way I could help out a player off the court, if I could help a player on the court, and I don't show up for it, that helps me. That doesn't help me get any sleep at night, because I know, that kid's home thinking about, like, I could have done this or I could have done that, or teammates just not being able to gel together, and me not being able to help improve the chemistry of a team, because players don't like each other. But that's on a coach. That's the majority of a coach's job, is to get players to want to play together and want to work together to a common goal. Coachability is number one, right? So I would say, coachability comes if they've had right coaches in their life, they've developed their game. Most all-stars aren't what most people would think is, uncoachable. Players get good because they're coachable. Players get good because they put the time in by themselves when the coaches aren't there. So, talent isn't born out of, guys that just show up for the game and don't put in the work. A lot of the talent comes from guys that are that you have to be coachable in order to be talented. So I wouldn't separate them as far as saying this guy's completely committed and this guy is just, not committed because he's so talented. But with that said, there is other players that are going to develop further in their lives because they become more coachable as time goes on. As they mature and as they grow, they learn to listen to other people and accept what other people are saying. And those are the guys that you see that, exceed the guys that were once better than them in high school or middle school or whatever it was. Players with the ability to learn as you mature, because everyone has a point in their life where their maturity level isn't where it needs to be. But as you mature, are you willing to listen, or are you going to shut down as you get older?
Right.
And maturity is a big part of it. The ones that you prepare for with the most intensity and the most mental preparation, the most, whether it's a rivalry game or it's a game that you've lost in previous years and there's some type of tension, those obviously
some kind of redemption, like a redemption factor.
Those always feel good,
yeah.
Right? But I mean, it's every game. The seasons are long. Is what most coaches don't understand. That it can get, or the fans don't understand rather. It can get built up like expectations to win, and other people creating expectations for you to win, right? And people saying that this is the most important game, but that's the most important. Like basketball games, 20 plus games a year.
Right.
If you show up just for the important ones and you don't show up for the ones that no one else in the media cares about, or none of the fans care about, then, congrats for winning 4 or 5 games that were big, but you got to win. You got to win all the games. So
definitely.
Not to avoid your question, but it's the process of waking up and starting over on the next game. Commitment's everything, so I think there's a level of commitment with D1 athletes. I think D3 athletes can be committed, but the more you commit yourself at D3 and pushing a kid to be more committed at D3 to his craft and showing him what being a professional is like, that's kind of what the coaching is in D3, and trying to show, what a scholarship really means to a school, and being able to go to school for that's not coming out of your pocket or your family's pocket it's a huge deal. So showing them what type of work these D1 and D2 athletes is, that's a big part of D3 coaching. D1 coaching, I mean, all these kids have really committed their entire life to getting where they are. I mean, no one's gotten where they are through just showing up in a gym for game day, right? So these kids are putting in at least 40 plus hours a week of work.
Oh, definitely, absolutely.
At the D1 level, right? So you want to take what they do those 40 hours, and you want to make those 40 hours that they always show up. They'll be there. Right. And you want to make those productive hours.
You got to make those count.
Right. You got to make those hours count. And how can you make winning decisions instead of are you about helping your team win, or are you about helping your team? Or are you about helping yourself improve? And if you can become a winning player in a D1 program, then your success follows as an individual. You build bonds with other people, you build bonds with the community, you build bonds with you learn about the community. So you have to be able to change the dynamics of how your day goes. So you're learning about the way that people act down there, and you're trying to fit yourself into different cultures. So for sure, there's a difference too. Yeah, I mean, so in Boston, go Rondell. So real quick, in Boston, it's a big time professional scene. There's no question about that. With the Red Sox, Patriots, and all that, and the Celtics. But down
it's a huge pro sports town,
yeah,
definitely.
Down south in Chattanooga, in Knoxville, and I mean anywhere down south, you're going to find a lot of pride in the college programs. The bars and the owners of the bars really take pride in providing the fans to watch the game. The community just gets together for their college, and there's a lot of pride within the universities down south. So that's definitely one difference. The sense of community as far as universities goes is a lot different than up here. And Boston's really, I mean, let's be honest, it's a hockey town, right? So Rondell is someone I've worked with all summer. He, when I met him, he was at Daniel Webster, which is a D3 here in New England. He's put in more work than anyone this summer that I've trained personally. You're looking at 6-7 wingman in a D3 school who can spread the floor and who can shoot. But for me, the biggest thing about Rondell this summer is his ability to mature mentally and to the confidence level that he's gained. And I think with the confidence, the maturity, the ability to listen, the ability to work with others, I think he went from a D3 player, and he showed that he can be a D2, D1, NAIA player, and he's getting offers. And that happened within a 6-month period. So I have nothing but admiration for what he's done. I mean, like I mentioned, there's more work that goes into becoming a D1, D2 scholarship athlete. You're committing your entire life. That's your profession. You're a young professional. So D3, it's getting kids to understand that's how hard you have to work if you want to get to that level. And if you're happy where you're at, but you still can be the best at the D3 level. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You get your education and be the best at that level. So there's always the stages to get to. Like, if you want to be the best D3 athlete, you got to work your ass off. You know what I mean? If you want to step up and get a scholarship like Rondell did this summer, you have to take the extra step further. So it's important to know that how hard other people are working to be able to say, I'm going to work that hard to get to that point in my career. Working with people who I could help, working with youth, potentially teaching in either a college or a high school or even younger in elementary school. But basketball is such a huge part of my life, like I mentioned earlier. I mean, I come from a basketball family. It's really all I've learned, all I've worked at. So if I didn't have basketball, if I didn't find basketball, I like teaching. So I like giving back and I like teaching to other people. Somewhere in that field.